Good evening, everybody. This is Phillip Namanworth with Creative Spirituality. I welcome you. Today's a wonderful day because we've made a great new expansion in the way the class works. Usually our normal host, who's incredible and helps us out getting the class going, every once in a while can't make it. And now my son-in-law Pesach and Shlomo and Stephen have come together and resolved it so that on the times that that person can't do it, we can continue with the class. Because the class is important beyond any of our individual needs as well. It's important for me, for our continuity. It's important for us all together as a group. And many of us don't have other formats to talk about some of the stuff that we discuss here. Everybody talks about something different. But it also plays into this week's chapter. I think it's the Alter Rebbe says, live with the times, meaning that each week the Torah discusses a segment of our lives that pertains to us. And there's basically 53, some people say 54, some 55, some 57 chapters, but we go by about 54. And this week we have the lighting of the menorah, the instructions for the lighting of the menorah in the Mishkan. We are in the fourth book of the Torah, which is called Bamidbar. In English, it's called Numbers because there's a lot of census and countings. But Bamidbar means in the desert. But it's also related to Ba, Midbar, in the middle of speaking or the middle of the thing itself. But it's in the middle of the desert. And this is the chapter in the fourth book where, after all of the preparations done since we came out of Egypt, we actually are get ready to start going through the desert. You know, we say the Jews were in the desert 40 years. It's actually 38 and a half that we were forced to do. But up until now, everything has been preparation. And we've tried to discuss a little bit about how forming the people into tribes and groups, building the Mishkan, learning how to use the spiritual sanctuary, all preparation for our journeys. And I think it would be fair to say that there are many preparations that we all need to take for our life journey as well. The way life works, though, isn't though you get to wait until you got it. You start going through your life, and then you learn what you're strong at and what you need to fix. And something you may not ever have thought about, which is often comes at you. And one of the questions is how to deal with the things that seem contradictory or that other people look at it in a different way while you're on your journey, and yet stay connected to yourself, your family, your friends, and your people, because in the end, we're all one community. So it says that God tells Moses to tell Aaron to light the menorah. Now, we've all seen a menorah. Hello, Brian.
Hey.
We've all seen a menorah. Now, I would encourage everybody to read the beginning of the portion because he tells Moses how to make the menorah. And we've all seen some sort of picture of the menorah, right? It has to be made out of one piece of gold. It looks like a bunch of things that were welded together, right? You got a staff, you got sticks, you got flowers, you got all kinds of ornaments. But the idea and what it says is it has to be made out of one piece. And the commentators that try to discuss, and scientists over the years, how can maybe you have a mold, how else could you get all that intricacy out of one piece of. Same thing actually happens with the cover of the ark with the cherubs. That has to be one piece, and it had to be banged out from the inside somehow. There's this idea that certain things have to have a wholeness, a oneness. And the idea of light and the menorah for the Jewish people is very important and significant idea for the purpose of who the Jewish people are. Isaiah says, "You are the light unto the nations." So however you figure that out, we were given a special ability to share a certain type of light. Now, one can only share the light when they know that they have some, that there is light, where it comes from, and how you use it. So not all, it's not something you can answer right away in 1 second, but just to know, because if you don't know it, the world will constantly let you know it. The world is constantly telling the Jewish people that they're different. You can come up with a million reasons why, but it's thousands of years and no one has any reason except that there's something different. And we're not even using the word better. We're using the word different. If you think of the human body, the heart is different than the spleen and the lungs, and it's hard to live without any of those. You can live maybe without your spleen, but without the lungs, it's, which is more important, but if the lungs want to be the heart and the heart wants to be the lungs, that would be like trying to do a project and the person who's supposed to be shipping decides he wants to do the marketing, and the person who's doing the marketing decides he wants to play golf. So that business is not going to be working very well. So we have to figure out who we are as a body of people. So in this book of the Torah called Bamidbar, which is called Numbers, there's a lot of counting. In last week's Parsha, we went through, people were bringing their contributions for the dedication of the Mishkan, which is the portable temple. And you notice there, if you read it, everybody brought exactly the same thing. So what we call a klutz kasher is, a klutz kasher is the obvious question. If I say my name is Philip, Phillip, the obvious question is, why so many L's, right? In this question, why didn't you just say, and all the tribes brought this same thing? And the answer given is one that fits in our own lives quite directly, is that each one had a different meaning to it and a different intention behind it. If you bring a friend a present and you bring it for one reason and someone brings it to them for another reason, you both brought the same present, but it means something else. One, the receiver might say, "Oh, that's so thoughtful because I didn't even think of using it for that," and you're also thoughtful because I could use it for something else. Which means that we have 12 different tribes. Right now, today, we don't know who we are except for the Kohanes and the Levi, which means they're both from the tribe of Levi. And each one of them has a different mode of expressing the divine consciousness. In other words, we all have the same Torah. We all read the same prayers, but the way that we absorb them and the way that we express them is meant to affect each of us in a different way. So we read a prayer, and some prayers affect one person more than another. Some prayers, some people cry at because it touches them in a certain way. We all have similar mitzvahs. Say that it's Shabbos and we're lighting candles. And, some people have lost someone, or some people are just so happy about their blessings, or some people don't even know why they're doing it, but they're just doing it. Everybody has, but we're all doing it. We're all help building that construction called the Jewish people, which takes us back a little bit to why the menorah is one piece. as we know, it has three lamps going out from a center on each side and one in the center. So that's 7 lights. There's a reason, of course, for everything, and something called cups and flowers, different decorations and different amounts. The size of it had to be a certain way. A certain person had to clean it every morning. Because there's something about the oneness of the Jewish people that contributes to our individuality, and something about our individuality when we grasp it that no one else can contribute to the group. If you're in the zone of Yiddishkeit and studying, and that there is a right and a wrong, and if instead of saying right and wrong, certain things in life work and certain things in life don't work. If you buy a new computer and it says, do not hold down this one and that one and plug it in because it'll short on you, no one will say, don't tell me what to do, right? You just spent $2,000, $3,000. It's telling you how it works, and don't tell me what to do. When it comes to life, no one likes to be told what to do. Don't tell me how to live my life. But it's very much the same thing. God is the creator, and whether we can see the connections at that moment or not, whether we can see those connections, there are things that work and things that don't work for us. So God says, eat this, don't eat that. Try to behave this way and that way. Try to correct as fast as possible, because that'll work for you. And of course, we are trusted by God to do what we want to do. His God who makes us, and he trusts us not to believe in him or not to believe anything that the Torah says. We are trusted. In fact, and we are renewed every day. I mean, tell me someone who can go without sleeping for more than a certain amount. And we get up, and the first thing in the morning we say is, thank you for restoring my soul. Thank you for refreshing my spiritual, giving me a break from everything that I'm going through. And at the end of this Modeh Ani, it says, Modeh Ani lefanecha, I give thanks before you. Melech Chai v'Kayom, King of everlasting life. Who's returned my soul within me. Rabba emunatecha. Your faithfulness is great. We're saying, God, your faithfulness is great. You believe in us. You believe that even though you've concealed yourself, and we can really decide to do anything, harmful or not, whether we know it or not, you have faith that we're going to try to do the right thing, and you've given us the tools to do the right thing. Or the thing that's the healthiest. And if we're all challenged sometimes, we eat too much, we don't sleep enough, our diets or whatever, our exercise is off, whatever it is, we're all challenged somewhere. We're in weird relationships, jobs that are difficult. You get up in the morning, you don't know why you get up in the morning, you don't feel it. We're all facing things every day, but the Torah is saying this is part of the roller coaster of life, and each of those things has a purpose. And part of that purpose is to help you light your candle on the menorah. So I want to read you from the Hayenu just a little bit about what it says about the construction of the. This is something they put out every week that I subscribe to. It has a lot of Torah in it, and it has Rashi. It has everything in it. So when I travel, just take it with me. It says the lamps of the menorah allude to the souls of all the Jewish people. They are all of one essence, originally one block of gold. So all our souls, even though they eventually come on different candlesticks, originate in the oneness of the menorah itself. Yet they become differentiated into different forms of illumination as they become embodied in the world. So it says, what is the tachlis amitas? What is the purpose of existence? Is to illuminate, make this world a home for God in your particular situation where you live. So you're going to have your training, and we could all get training from the same people, but you're going to have your situation. Your job is going to be different than mine, and you're going to have to bring that gift into that job. And I have the same thing, and my family is going to be different than your family. So it will be discussed and separated according to who we are as individuals. Yet even as the individual soul is illuminated, we must be cognizant of our commonality, that we are all created to serve our Creator. It's not just me and I'm mad at someone and they're not created that way. It's not like that. It's we all come from the same place. This is alluded to in Rashi's comment, where he says when the candles are lit, in other words, when we're all lit, when we're all doing the thing that lines up with our spiritual profile, so to speak, when we're kind of in line with ourselves or are in the process of aligning ourselves, we reveal the united construction of the menorah itself. So it's never like you're just in line with yourself. When you're in line with yourself, it helps show how others are in line with themselves. Now, the Jewish people are often called Knesset Yisrael, the congregation of Israel. We have, and this explains in some degree why the Jews are often persecuted. We have together brought to this world through the Torah certain things that we've come to resemble. The prophets tell us that God said, "You are my witnesses. You are mine witnesses that I created the world." People don't like that. That there is a good and a bad, that there is a right and a wrong, that there is conscience, that there is compassion. And when people who don't like that so much, it makes them hate the Jewish people. It doesn't mean they stole anything from them or anything. You say, why do people hate the Jews? Part of the reason is that we are witnesses to everything that evil hates. I'm not saying everybody has reached that level, but evil, they say, if you want to tell me who a person is, I'll just tell me who his enemies are. I'll tell you something about the person. If his enemies are China, Russia, and Iran, and gangsters, then I know something about the person. Because the Jewish people, and Hitler said this, unfortunately, Yimach Shemo, may his name be erased, that these people brought this idea of conscience to the world, and I'm going to kill them. He said this in one of his things. I have it in writing. The idea that it's not the survival of the fittest and the strongest, but the humility and all of these things that they hate. So you might say, and as an interesting example, does everybody sort of know the story of Purim, of Mordechai, that he won't bow down to Haman? If you know the story, his niece is married to Achashverosh, and Mordechai won't bow down to Haman, who's the second in command. He's a real lowlife, who was formerly a slave. He's a real lowlife. So Haman, the first thing Haman says, "Who are your people?" And then he decides to kill his people. Why didn't he just say, "Well, this guy, everybody else is bowing down to me. This guy Mordechai, I'm just going to kill him"? I think that's a logical question, right? You could say, "I didn't do anything. This guy is he's doing it. What are you attacking me for?" Because each of us are part of Knesset Yisrael. We are part of this spiritual force that is in the world. And every Jew has a piece of that decency. Every Jew has a piece of that spiritual consciousness. And it's in all of us, whether you see it or not. The entire world is telling you all the time you have it. And that's what's going on today again. They hate us for who we are. It's nothing we've done. We don't represent anything negative in the world. We never did. We never tried to conquer the world. We are witnesses to something else. We are witnesses to the fact that Hashem created the universe and that all people have a divine image, and that everybody has a responsibility. And we could say, well, I don't want that burden. Too bad, you have that burden just by being born. And since there's nobody born accidentally, and this includes non-Jews, every person has a purpose. You'll never lose your free will. So maybe a person now, and as we're getting older, decides to study Torah on a little deeper level. You get involved in a divine consciousness. I was talking to someone before class, and we were talking about logic. Logic is the way intellect creates it, but intellect is only as smart as the person. And then there's divine intellect, which is called Chokhmah Bina Da'as, Chabad, which means that the light of your intellect is infused with divine sensitivity. That's a different kind of logic. So life can seem counterintuitive. It's almost as if, if you give a person a certain amount of drugs, they're going to die, usually, right? But a person who's got hypothermia, what do? They shoot them full of drugs because they're in such an extended state. That's the only thing they need. Sometimes in our lives, we're so distant from our center and from our essence and from who we really are, and we're having a lot of troubles because of that. Hashem will send something that is really annoying or challenging, not to hurt you, but to make you dig deeper and to awaken you. One anti-Semite once said, we hate the Jews for one reason. They're an alarm clock. What do you mean they're an alarm clock? They wake us up. They remind us that it's time to get up and wake up to something greater. And just because you don't see yourself that way, which is unfortunate, we can get people who are from our own faith who don't have any training at all joining things that are actually anti-Jewish. They're not connected to their mission. They're not connected to the Jewish people. They're not connected to the Torah in a certain way. And they have fallen under the political logic of left, right. There's no center in this country. And the Torah is all about the middle way. What's the middle way? The middle way is, now I'm going to speak very logically. The Rambam, Moshe Maimonides, in his Mishneh Torah, speaks about how a person can correct something in their life. If they're too far left on something, and I don't mean politically, they can come more to the center. If they're a little too far right, they can come back towards the center. If you're very far to one extreme or the other, you can't just come to the center and iron things out. You have to go to an extreme. Someone who's totally drinking all the time can't just say, I'm going to cut down. They have to stop drinking and go through that. Someone who has overeating or whatever we have to, we got to go AA, we go Overeaters Anonymous, and we just do something extreme for a while, because being extreme for a while to counteract something negative in one's life that the one's been doing will help you get back to the center. The ideal is that center. So what is it the center of? It says in the menorah, there are 3 branches coming out each side, and each one is faced towards the center, facing towards the spiritual center of their lives, no matter what your personality. And we've discussed this over and over again in terms of the 7 spheros. We will constantly talk in those terms: kindness, judgment, harmony, compassion, endurance, humility, bonding, and self-esteem. Each one of the candles on the menorah represents one of those things. We all have more of one thing than another, but we all have everything. This is why in this book that's called Numbers, is why everybody had to hear the count of every other tribe. If we were going to all get along, you can't just know about your own tribe. You can't say this is how our state does things and there's no federal government. You know what I mean? It's in order for me to yeah, thank you, Brian. I saw that menorah. We are part of a oneness. That idea may never have been in anybody's mind. I'm not. I live alone. I'm having struggles. I'm not part of anything. No, 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 no. The minute you were born, God said, I need you, because the Jewish people are one people, and you'll find out what your function is as you go through life in your pursuit. It is not going to come to you so easily all the time, but as long as you're on the right track. Now, part of that being on the right track means that it has to involve every part of one's life. So some people think being religious, and let me remind you what the Lubavitch Rebbe said about being religious. The only one who knows who's really religious is God. We don't know. You could look at someone, you think they're not, you don't know. It's not up to you. God knows. He made you. Each person is challenged in certain ways. You say, okay, when I come to class, I feel great. I do a couple of mitzvahs. I give charity. I have, hopefully I have a charity box at home. Hopefully I'm a member of a synagogue, or maybe not, or at least I study, or I study with somebody. I do whatever I can do. Because the more you reach outside into the worldly things that you do, the more you bring it to work. This doesn't mean that you go around, preaching to anybody. It just means you bring a kind of kindness. Some very well-known businessmen that I know, they make sure there's a tzedakah box on their meeting table when they have meetings with people for billions of dollars. And they come in and say, what's that? And he tells them that we're obligated to give charity. I mean, that's a huge spiritual thing. He's not preaching to them, and people like it. So the idea is that you have the power to bring the same kind of feeling and light that you feel when you're in a spiritual situation to every situation, at work, relationships, how we relate to each other, how we relate to ourselves, and what our relationship is with God. Very often, we're dissatisfied with our lives. And the Lubavitch Rebbe says some very wonderful things about that. In this fourth book of the Torah, this is the third chapter of this book, it's only now that the Jewish people actually start going through the desert. Some people think the Torah is the story of the Jews going through the desert. Well, not in the first book, not in the second book. We just start out. It's 1 year out. Not in the third book. It's in the fourth book. On the 20th of the second month of the second year, we begin it. And right after that, from now on, if you follow the chapters, every chapter we get in trouble. As soon as we start our journey, we start screwing up right and left. So what's the obvious question is, why? Because it's not so easy to bring your center into everything and you're fighting against a lot of stuff, because you're learning how to reinforce your sense of self in every situation. When someone is on a different level, you can still be yourself, and you have to find the right way to do it, a nice way to do it, a friendly way to do it. And the more you stand your ground, the more you bring holiness into that area. It could be as simple as bringing a worker a cup of coffee in the morning that you never did, or helping someone out. Bring your Yiddishkeit, bring your kindness. Yeah, now we're going to start complaining that there's not enough meat, which is the whole thing. And then Miriam's going to be talking Lashon Hara about Moses separating. And then Korach's going to, accuse Moses. It's like one thing. In fact, this is my very first Torah class with my teacher in 1985, in the fall of 1985, I had read the Bible. By saying the Bible, I mean I read the actual copy that they gave me at my bar mitzvah in 1958. And I had a lot of questions. And I said, what's with these Jews? Every time God does something from them, they screw up and they want more. And Rabbi Jacobson said, no one's ever asked me that before. He says, I guess that's the way life is, isn't it? Things come at you all the time, and the Torah prepares you. And of course, by the time I personally had started studying, I had studied many other religions and systems and found little pieces of things in all of them, but never the whole picture. And when he started talking and I started hearing Hasidus, which is what we're talking, I got so angry. And I said to him, I slammed my hand on the table in front of everybody and said, what the heck are you talking about? And he said, this is Yiddishkeit. And I said, I never heard it my whole life. And he said, well, that is the trouble. That's the shame. And right now, a part of my mission in life is to share what I know with everybody, just to give people facts and help them learn what they learn. I'm dedicated to that so that we shouldn't be ignorant. You'll do with it what you want. No one can take away your free will, except the weight of knowing what's right and wrong. You know what I mean? It's sort of like if you get engaged, you take away your free will to go out with other girls. You know what I mean? If you say, I'm going to be this kind of person, it's harder not to be that kind of person, but it's still a struggle. So we are part of that menorah. And as soon as we go on our journey, everything that's an obstacle comes in our way. And everything in life is a journey. You see, in the beginning, God tells Abraham to leave where he is. And the first thing that happens to Abraham when he's traveling is that there's a famine. Right? First thing that happens. You told me to leave. I left. There's a famine. And now they're blaming me for it. God tells him to sacrifice his son. First, he's saying, I want a son. He doesn't have a son till he's 100 years old. Well, he had Ishmael before, who's from his Egyptian wife Hagar. But Isaac didn't come until he's 100 years old. And then all of a sudden, God says to him, go take him and offer him as a sacrifice. Nothing in the Torah is normal or you can make sense of right away. It's sort of like the things that attract us to art or the things that attract us to the extraordinary experience of being with someone and just that you stay together through very difficult things. It's a kind of magic that comes from living life fully. But to have the strength to live life fully and not run out on everything every minute anything hurts, one needs to find out how that works. And the Torah gives us that example of how things work in the world. So the menorah is given to Aaron to light because Aaron, he says he loved peace, pursued peace, and no matter who you were, in what level you were, he loved you, and it made you want to do more. They tell the difference between going to see different spiritual leaders. Some people, you go to see them and you go, oh, that person is so high, blew my mind. But if you went to see the Lubavitch Rebbe, people would leave going, oh, I'm so much more than I ever thought I was. Because he brought it out in you. That's our job, is to bring out the goodness in other people by being our real selves. The more real you are with someone else, the more real they feel they can be with you. Pace, what happened?
What's the problem?
Who's, let me just sign on again. Is everybody else on?
Yeah, everyone's listening. Yeah, I'm here.
Can you see pictures? Oh, I just got it. For some reason it went off. That happens. You
I'm
have to.
here.
Okay, great. Great. We're all here. We're all together. If you've noticed over the years, and I must say that some people here are new tonight, which is wonderful, but some of us have been doing this for a couple of years now, and this is a very exciting night because we've moved past the point of our great obstacle that every time Lindy had to go away, we couldn't have a class. And I know some people like this class. They wait for it. I wait for it during the week. So I want to thank everybody who did, Stephen, Shlomo, Pesach, thank you. The same way we have a classes because Lindy said, we can't keep coming up to your house in Riverdale. I'll show you how to hook things up and I'll do it for you. So this means that we're more connected. We are a community. I can't have the class without you. You can't have the class without me. And hopefully we're learning things that we can take out into our daily interactions with each other. And before class, I was talking to someone about a personal matter. If anybody has anything they really need to discuss, I'm open, or we could at least discuss how to get the best information. I'm not a rabbi. I don't give any decisions on anything, but I've learned from my teachers how to listen and perhaps how to guide someone towards where they need to go, as I was guided during my many years of study. So this week is called Behaalotcha. Now, if anybody lights candles on Shabbos, do you know the bracha for the candles? Lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. Does anybody know that bracha? Lahadlik means to light. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kitshonu b'mitzvosav v'tzivon, lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. Excuse me. Baruch atah melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. God, blessed are you, God, who has commanded us to light the candles. That's lahadlik. So why this word Behaalotcha? Behaalotcha means that Aaron has to make the candles rise. That means he has to stand by each one until it's rising by itself before he goes on to the next one. Which means when you meet a friend, and you're learning together, we should not just tell somebody something. We should learn with them until they understand it on their own and their flame is lit. It may not be the flame you have, but so they find a way to grasp it themselves. Otherwise, it's like someone who goes to class after class and can't really use it. So God tells Moses to tell Aaron, I want him to spread the joy and the love of Yiddishkeit by giving this so much love to people that it'll take light on them, and they'll use it in their own way and find their own way to do it. But you have to make sure that they are, it's sort of on the right wick. You want to kindle that flame. Sometimes you meet people who inspire you. I know as a musician, much of our career as musicians and artists is about seeing someone who blows your mind. You go, oh my gosh, I want to do something like that. I'll never do that, and then you go home and you practice for 3 months straight on one note or whatever it is. But inspiration is important. Inspiration is the flame, a flame, but it has to have a wick. And the wick for inspiration to illuminate your life and to bring illumination to your environment is by actually doing physical things. See, God, who is beyond spiritual, God is neither spiritual or material. God's not spiritual. He created spiritual. God created heaven and earth. God is Elokus, we call it, beyond the beyond. But he wants us to be able to move into more spiritual, ethereal matters because they're the transit through that area is a little more transparent once you get into adding that part to you. If you've ever been around someone you think is a very enlightened person, And you notice that we're a menorah, be a menorah. When you're around someone who helps you in some way, you feel enlightened. That's because we are all have the capability of being a menorah and lighting the world around us with our own particular styles and individuality. It's not about being in arguments of sort and saying who's right and who's wrong. We're always going to be challenged with people who disagree. But friendship is, there are many ways to be friendly with people. And today we have to be careful because there are a lot of people out there who are into negativity, hating Jewish people, hating the Torah, involved in actual evil, but they're trying to have made into law, making claims, Marxists and this and that. This country is not perfect, but it's still the best with Israel. A lot of you don't want to be in certain other countries. You do not have the same freedoms. Well, or else you could say every single country in the world has free speech. Who would agree with that? I would agree. I think every country in the world has free speech. It's what happens after that's different. You could say what you want in Iran, but the minute after that, you're gone. Right? Here, you can have free exchange of ideas is written into the Constitution. It's an exchange of ideas. It's not an exchange of blows. It's not a writing off of another person. It's not a belittling of whole groups of people for power. This is not a Jewish way. It's not the way of the world in a way, but it is the way that power works in the world. So how does one protect oneself? One has to shield oneself by studying and doing mitzvahs and praying. Praying is so difficult. Praying is like trying to be emotional with yourself. But if one attempts to pray to God, and you can open up a door to talking to yourself honestly about how you are emotionally, this is a huge door. When people go to therapists, it's usually they try to find out some event or incidents in their life that caused them to be a certain way and how they can cope. The Torah is not therapy. The Torah precedes it. The Torah says, God says, I made you. The soul, the shamash and sativi, tahorati. I gave you a pure soul. I gave you a little cruse of oil. You celebrate Hanukkah, but you have that light inside you, and you can recreate your entire life because you always will have that inside you. But many of us do not know we have that inside us. So it's important to know, important to see how it operates within us, and how we can just be that candle on the candlestick. Because we are individuals, but we are part of a commonality. Even if we find ourselves isolated, I always suggest find some social things, join a synagogue, go to a class, do something. Don't everybody thinks there is an imposter or two. You know what I mean? I have many people I know. I was writing a book, and I was telling this woman she was getting thousands of dollars an hour from banks to lecture them, and she says, little do they know that every time I get up to speak, I hear my mother's voice in my head. That she's a bad girl, that I'm an imposter. But I do it anyway, and I make a lot of money. Because we all have stuff going on in our head. The trick is, can I develop enough gevura, enough discipline to do what I need to do for myself, no matter how I feel? And in many cases, I think a lot of cases, it's not all or nothing. It's more like a batting average. If you find yourself always being stopped by your head, you're batting 0. If you get it up to 1 in 10 times, you're batting 100, right? What's one of the highest the highest all-time batting averages? I think we're in the 300s. I mean, I know there was some in the 400s, Christy Mathewson, Ty Cobb, and all these guys. but a terrific batting average is like 3.5 out of 10. I mean, 6.5 times you could be striking out or missing or whatever. What we want to do is see what our batting average is. Say, okay, there's me saying I can't do that. Well, you know what? Let me pick one thing that I usually say I can't do and do it, or try to do it, or ask someone else how they do it. Just get my batting average up enough. You're not making a huge jump into the pool. You're just saying, who doesn't want a better batting average? Who doesn't want to take another little step forward every day? That's why in Judaism, change is such an important thing. And it doesn't have to be huge change, because the idea of change seems so impossible to people in general. It is impossible to change without Hashem's help. But if you can change one small thing, that mechanism opens up a whole door to change the next small thing. And it doesn't mean you're not going to fall back. Life is two steps forward, one step back, You can't say, oh, I got this far and then I fell back. Yeah, now go 2 more steps. Or as my teacher said, the secret to opening a seltzer bottle. Does anybody know the secret to opening a seltzer bottle? 2 turns this way and it starts spritzing. You turn it back 1. It stops. And then you give it 2 more turns. It spritz a little and turn it. By the 3rd time, it's open. Because if you just try to do it too fast, what happens? You just turn it off and it spritzes all over you. Life is very much like that. But it involves getting to know ourselves, not judging ourselves. When people start to, to consult other people about how their lives work or how their businesses work, if you hire a consultant in to see how your business is working, the first thing they're going to do is say to you, okay, what's your overhead? How many hours you spend here? What are the facts? They're not going to judge you right away. They just want to say, tell me how you operate, right? The same thing with life. I remember when I was trying to get back on budget or fix my eating habits, I'd write down everything I did and then look at it and go, this part's ridiculous. I didn't even know I was doing that. So it's a way of first of all, it's a way of being accountable, because no one's perfect. But what you want from your friends is accountability. Someone who will say, yeah, maybe let me think about that. Maybe I had something to do with that, or let's try to figure it out, rather than, oh, you're always wrong and I'm always right. This doesn't work in friendships. There's usually a little of both in both places. And in long-term relationships, we want someone who's accountable. Perfection may be impossible, but excellence is irresistible. Do as well as you can. The audience will give you the rest if you're doing as well as you can. I learned that from my acting teacher. If you pretend you're Robert De Niro and you don't even know how to be on stage, you'll be booed. But if you're who you are, doing it the best, they'll allow you to be who you are, and they'll even give you a little more slack. If people see that you're making an effort in your life to change something, they'll give you a lot more room and try to help you, because they see it, they know how hard it is themselves. So we are all part of one menorah. It's made out of one piece of gold. We are Knesset Yisroel. We are a commonality in this world. We are one group that was sent here to be God's witness to the creation and to goodness. What's the first thing the mafia guys ask if they commit a crime? Did anybody see us? Kill the witness. And very often the Jews have that role, because that's the way evil operates. They don't want to be exposed. And we will not be like them. And I give everybody a bracha that you should bring more light and see how you already are bringing light to your corner of the world, and see if you want to strengthen that. Find some areas that could be a little better. Decide what to do, but always be moving ahead. It says, Tzadikim ein lo menucha, but tzaddik has no rest. The only time a Jew has rest is when he's saying the Shmona Esrei. It's the only time we put our feet together. You can even dance around while you're davening. Many people do. But when it comes to the Shemona Esrei, you're not. You're like an angel. You're standing. Omed, the Amida, standing. Can't move. You're like an angel. You're one with Hashem. You're a channel for spirituality. And believe it or not, for those of us who know a lot, for those of us who know very little, and include myself, just the honesty and authenticity that a person can bring to their own life in some way is a candle for everyone. And with that, I wish everybody a good Shabbos. I want to thank everybody again. Pesach, my son-in-law, thank you so much. Shlomo, Stephen, for helping us continue the classes. And Pace, do you know how to turn off the recording? You better call